lamb here. So basically we've just cut right through the 6th and 7th, in between the 6th and 7th bone off the lamb. So that, so this bit here is the best end. So this would have attached here. It's got a bit of its brisket missing, but basically that was attached to there. Yeah, so that's what you can see. So basically the loin of the animal, or the sirloin in beef. But anyway, we'll go on to this shoulder. So what I want to do is, I want to bone this whole shoulder out, so fleece it out. So I've got two single shoulders, but not still attached to the carcass. So I'm going to find where that centre bone is here. That's going to run up his spine, up to the top of his neck. And then we're just going to push in again and run that knife tight. Then again, I'm coming on this side. Very important to hear that noise as well, so you know you go into the deck. And then we turn it over onto its breast, or its breast strip. And all we're going to do is come down that bone. Same thing again, can you see what I'm doing with the knife? I mean, your knife you use is not quite as flexible as this, but it's the same principle, even if you were to use a hard knife. You're just putting a bit of pressure on it so your knife tries to stay tight to that bone. And all it is to be a butcher or a boner, to say all it is, it does take a long time. But what you are trying to do is just mimic that bone with your knife to follow it round. Because the more meat you leave on that bone, obviously as a butcher, that's the more money you're losing. So it is just a way. And what we do is, see, this is now like a perfect balance. If I was to saw this through the bandsaw and bring you half of that, I'm going to have to hold that and move it, but you can see that sitting there lovely now. So that's giving me it's helping me really. Might look big and cumbersome, but I'm working on gravity, and so it's showing me the way basically. The same thing again, just working down the sides. I mean, obviously if I was working in a butchery environment it'd be a lot faster than this, and I would be wearing protective clothing. Keep working your way around. Like you can see, it's sat there lovely. Coming up under the bone. So there we go, one side. Now you see, I ain't even got to hold that, it's just going to pull as I move. With that can be used for stock, or what we would do on beef as well, as all these can be taken out. So all this could be used for lamb mince, turn it into little faggots, burgers, sausages. So there would be no waste on that. There again, where we were on that loin, we've got this big row of paddy whack, as I call it. So that's the first thing that's got to come out. Pull that out. This is a slightly thicker side of it. You imagine this on beef, it's a lot bigger than this, but just so everyone can see, just pass that round. You can see why you wouldn't want to eat it. You try and pull it, you try and snap it. So it's very important. Also got some big fat and in this shoulder and blood clots. We're just going to peel that back. Take that off. for your chef of the year, there's one particular bit on here that you've all got to be using. So just get to. Take that bit of trim off there. See, the bone chip in the neck there, which I would trim off, and this would go into my trim. So what we're really after though, so I've just boned out the shoulder, but you see this, basically this is a continuation of this, which is a lamb neck fillet. So you can see that eye, which has got a slight resemblance, or should we turn this round? See the shoulder end? That's where that's been cut from. So we can see, so it's basically going into the shoulder. So what we're looking at really is the rib eye of the lamb. And then it's going to continue into the chuck, like if it was chuck of beef, and then into the neck of beef. So we're just going to tease that out. And what you've got there is the perfect lamb neck fillet, which lends itself, it can be quite, you can cook it quite quick and it still will be tender, but it does lend itself better to being confit or braised, because it has got a lot more fleck and fat through it. So that's a lovely bit of meat. So put that one there. So would you want me to carry on boning this out just to show you to bone it? Yeah. So then on the shoulder, so that's what we would call a robbed shoulder. So that's the prize in the shoulder. So but sometimes some butchers will rob that out of the shoulder and then roll this just as a rolled shoulder. Because that there, say for example, if I was selling to you, I could sell you this for $5.99 a kilo, but then that would be $11.99 a kilo. So you can see the difference. But just, this is not part of the thing, but we'll just bone this shoulder out and show you what we can do. So we're just going to take the foot off. There again, just following the bone, round the elbow, come over there, we just nick where the ball and socket is, give it a little twist, so we just dislocated it. Whoops. Also makes a good handle. So we just take that bone out too. Now we've got a bit of clod meat. That again gets rolled into your shoulder, but you can take that out and use that for tagine or lamb navaran. So now we've got, take this little bit off. All these little bits in the butchery will be taken off because all these bits would make good lamb mince. Anything that can't be used, so it'll be right down to something like that, which then would just go in waste. Right, we're going to take the shoulder blade out. Just peel this seam back a bit. See, it's a natural seam. It's another thing in butchery. Most muscles are taken off on a natural seam. If you come across there, then you can see this. This is the giveaway. Whoever wants to look in there. You see that big, like a, how should I put it? It's just like a big vein, but we can all see where that is. So, and on any animal where the shoulder blade is, you'll see this big tube. So that's telling me where the ball and socket is. So instead of me just going blind there, I know that she's going to be sat there. So just move the knife over slowly, expose it. There it is, we've just gone through that. So now we've got to try and separate these two. So we come down there, the shoulder blade. You can either take this back or you can cut through it. This can also be used as a, Eblex use this as a joint if this was attached, like so. If I took this all off and then rolled that as a mini joint of lamb, which is quite a nice cut because it's not quite as fatty as the whole shoulder. So the shoulder blade. So what we've got to do is we've got to run down one side of it. Some people do this, some people don't. But I always look for the longest side. Then we make a mark down there. And if we turn the knife over the other way, scratch that back, just so you get a clean bone. So all we're doing is going around the blade. It's the same on this side, just a little nick and then a scratch into the bone. So what I want to do is try and pull this off clean. So you just learn the technique, like see how tight I come across there to make it clean. If you don't do that, the blade will pull out dirty. So what you're trying to do is just go around the bone, come underneath it and scratch it there, tight. So what it's trying to do is release its bone, release the skin from the bone. Then when we pull, instead of cutting it out, it should pull out. You've got to take your little cartilages out. So that's a reasonable bone. It's been a while. So there we go, now we've just got one bone left. This is, and we would, if we were going to use this for a bone and roll shoulder, we would tunnel this bone. So we're not really going to be cutting through this main muscle here to get it out, to flap it open, so it just looks a bit tidier. So we try and do it by keeping it intact. So it's just a case of going round the bone. Just keep it coming, then you just lift it up. I mean, you can get tools that once you get to this stage, they're like a chisel, like a wood chisel, like a half bend, and you can just push that down so it scrapes the meat off. And obviously your knife does the same technique. If you wanted it really, really neat inside, you would. All I'm doing is going round that bone and cutting it away from all the tendons. Just a little twist. And the bone's out. Then we've got to look through there for, see where I've come tight there. We've got some bone skin. Check that we've left no bristle in there. Got this big piece of the kernel fat there, the gland, we'll just take that out. And inside here there's a big pocket of fat that we've got to try and get out without piercing the back of the skin. You can see that there. We pulled that out, and the reason we want that out, you see that big gland? No one wants that on their roast dinner. Yeah? So this would be then rolled back into position. This would come back over there, obviously this would be normally attached on the shoulder. And then we would turn it over, look for any, where this big bit of red is, we would take that bit of that back. Brisket end here we would just trim, or if you wanted to you could just dissect this back down into its different muscles, obviously to get your diced lamb, because that's where you would, shoulders if they're not used for roasting, that's where you get all your diced lamb for a casserole. And there, if we tied that now, that's just your shoulder of lamb.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much.